Hi and welcome to a Mardu Storm deck tech video. Not that long ago I made a card review and then a follow-up video about how good Dely currently is. And the big takeaway from that is that Dely together with Tymna is a pretty good thing. But there's one more further step you can actually take, and that's Dely together with Krark. So with the two partner commanders, Krark and Tymna, you get Mardu colors, but you also get a value engine, Tymna in the command zone, together with Krark as a potential storm win con. Now I enjoy looking into tournament data to see how specific commanders and how specific cards have been performing inside those commander options. I personally believe that's a very good approach in understanding a deck and trying to evaluate the deck and trying to understand what cards are good choices for that deck. But as we only have two tournament entries with Tymna and Krark, we can't really say that much. But I truly believe that Dely have upgraded this commander option quite a lot, and that it's definitely a worthy mention and something that I believe could be working out inside tournaments. Something I would probably right now recommend, with my beliefs only. No data to support it, but my personal experience is saying there might be something here. First thing first, I think we have to begin by explaining Krark. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return the spell to owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. So if you cast something like Strike It Rich, you create a treasure token, but if you get the Krark flip correctly, you create 2 treasure tokens. And if you have something like Krark's Thumb, if you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1, you're going to increase the chance of getting the correct result you are desiring. This takes us to cards like Storm Kiln Artist, Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. This actually means that if you're getting the flip result, the card is going back to your hand, you're still creating a trigger from Magecraft, creating a treasure. This means that a card like Deflecting Swat that is free to cast, or any card that is free to cast, or any ritual as well, basically, would theoretically potentially go infinite. The problem is that it's infinite in theory, and you actually have to play it through. It's not something you can shortcut, but theoretically, you're going infinite kinda here. Kinda. And I guess I have to come clean, because this is the part where I personally hate Krark the Thumbless, because it just takes forever to actually execute. And a very important message to you, whoever you are that is planning on putting this deck together and potentially playing with it, is that I highly recommend that you goldfish it like a lot of times, maybe 50 times, until you actually start trying to put it into real practice. And the reason behind that is that you have to be very efficient and very good at just executing this entire combo, basically. Because trust me, it can get complicated. And it can start to get very complicated very early, as there are a lot of different potential cards that could synergize with Krark, making Krark into a more potential storm engine, so to say. And this is where that Dely Streetwise Lookout comes into a huge upgrade for this deck. If an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. This means that you're getting 2 Krark triggers. This ultimately means that you're going to put 2 Krark triggers on the stack, you're going to flip 1 coin, you're going to resolve that flip and the outcome of that flip, and then you're going to flip the second coin and then resolve the outcome of that flip. Now if the first flip generates something of like a copy, and then the second flip generates a return effect, then the spell goes back to your hand, but the copy will still resolve. And yeah, this is where things could get very complicated, and where you could go infinite in theory if you're lucky. You can then build up more on this. So for example, let's say you have Dely in play, you have Tavern Scoundrel and Krark the Thumbless, and whenever you flip a coin, create 2 treasure tokens. Whenever you win a coin flip, create 2 treasure tokens. But having Dely in play, and Tavern Scoundrel in play, and Krark the Thumbless in play, means that you're doubling up on both. So whenever you win a coin flip, you're creating 4 treasure tokens, and whenever you're like creating a coin flip from Krark, you're creating 2 coin flips. So value town. And once again, this is why I think Dely is such a huge, interesting upgrade for this deck, because it's just boosting the combo potential from Krark, the storm potential, as well as boosting the value engine you have from Tymna. Let's say you can't win the game, let's say there's like a Stax piece in play. Well, with Dely and Tymna, you're still increasing the card drawing potential. Eventually you will find spot removals to get rid of those things, and as you've probably casted Krark somewhere down the line, then you've already set up Krark and Dely, and maybe some other more value engines that's gonna synergize with Krark, and then boom, you're off to stormy races. But there's more than just Krark that is going to be synergizing with Dely. You have things like Dockside Extortionist, that's gonna be 2 Docksides. You have Esper Sentinel, you have things like Orcish Bowmaster. Let's actually keep that Orcish Bowmaster in our minds for a short while. You see, we actually need to figure out a logical way to win this game. One thing I would like to recommend is Underworld Breach, Lions of Diamond and Grinding Station. We can't play Brain Freeze because we don't have the color identity of blue, but we can still play Grinding Station. Grinding Station is basically the non-blue variant to Brain Freeze. And then a usual outcome is that you cast your Heat Shimmer or Twin Flame, and then you cast your Dual Custom Mage and make infinite tokens of Dual Custom Mage and win the match. Heat Shimmer and Twin Flame is also pretty good together with something like Dockside Extortionist, because you get secondary Dockside Extortionists as well. But there is another potential finisher, another potential outcome with the printing of Orcish Bowmaster that I think is going to be more popular over time. Let's say we have Underworld Breach, or we have kind of established the Underworld Breach package. We have a huge graveyard, we have access to Wheel of Fortune, Twin Flame and an Orcish Bowmaster. You can cast Twin Flame repetitively from your graveyard with the power of Underworld Breach. And then you make more copies of Orcish Bowmaster. Let's say you make 3 of them or something of the sort. And then you cast 1 Wheel of Fortune, or maybe 2. Just make sure that you have enough cards remaining in your library so that you won't deck yourself. Now, you're not going to deck your opponents, you're going to kill your opponents with not infinite, but a very high amount of damage. Going back to Dely, she's also upgrading this entire concept. If you have an Orcish Bowmaster in play, and you have a Dely in play, and you're resolving an Wheel of Fortune, you're going to split out 42 damage to be exactly. That's enough to kill 1 player. If you're casting 3 wheels from an Underworld Breach, not that hard to achieve, you've killed the entire table. But also if you're casting a few Twin Flames before the wheel, then you've increased the amount of Orcish Bowmasters you have, and then you're killing everyone even more, and with fewer wheels. This takes us to the secondary Dely inside this deck, Roaming Throne. This is a 4 mana cost artifact with Ward 2. As Roaming Throne enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Roaming Throne is the chosen type in addition to its other types. I'm going to recommend that you choose Wizards. I'm going to show you soon later, but if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. This is the exact same wording as on Dely, except Dely would only work on power 2 creatures. Well, this will work on every power creature. But once again, you're going to get double Tymna and you're going to get double Krarks. That takes us to also kind of showcase Harmonic Prodigy. If an ability of a shaman or wizard you control triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. And 2 seems quite good. You're getting it into play on a low mana cost, and it's going to be similar to a secondary Krark, because once Krark triggers, Krark is a wizard, strangely. Chaotic coin flipping magic, but Krark is a goblin wizard, believe it or not. Harmonic Prodigy will make him work more. Maybe Warlock would actually have been a good card type for Krark when I think about it, because Warlock is a little bit more chaotic than Wizard. But I'm not a knowledgeable person to define the difference between a Warlock and a Wizard, so I will leave that one out. As we've talked about cloning and making more Orcish Bowmasters, I would like to mention Cursed Mirror, a really good card in general. As Cursed Mirror enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until an end of turn, except it has haste. If an opponent has a Dockside, now you also have a Dockside. If you're storming off and you have a Dockside, now you have a secondary Dockside. But going back to that Orcish Bowmaster, trying to kill everyone with Orcish Bowmasters and Wheel of Fortunes, then yeah, Cursed Mirror will help you with that as well. As you can see, we're starting to stack up a really high density of creatures. A lot of them are value engines. They are working together with Krark in various ways to generate more triggers. But this also means that with a high density of creatures, the potential of Tymna is also increasing. So in the end, everything is just coming together by itself. And we're achieving a very ultimate goal of making every individual card great on its own. Dely will also always be great, because you always, more or less, except Draenei Magistrate, you will always almost have access to Dely and a synergy from Krark or Tymna with Dely all of the time. And Dely is just boosting the value of all other, and Roaming Throne as well. But they are more or less just boosting the value of all of your synergizing creatures inside your build, working towards a greater purpose of both synergizing with value from Tymna as well as extra value storm combo potential from Krark. And you still have place for the One Ring. Highly recommend, great card in general. You are probably going to need a few spot removals against variant opponents playing Draenei Magistrate. Lightning Bolt, highly recommend. Also Swords to Plowshare and maybe Path to Exile to make sure you're getting rid of stacked creatures that could be locking you away from winning the match. You can play Draenei Magistrate in the same deck build as well, actually, as to just mentioning. One thing that is kind of funny with Lightning Bolt is that if you have infinite mana, which you theoretically have by casting a few of those spells I've showcased before, like if you're casting Jeska's Will enough times together with Krark, you will draw your entire deck and you will have infinite red, in theory. Then also in theory, you have Lightning Bolt that could do, in theory, infinite damage as long as you're winning every single coin flip, which could theoretically happen. And once again, why I hate Krark. We also have Saw in Half as a secondary version of Twin Flame. Saw in Half and Dockside Extortionist, by the way, really good. Highly recommend that one. But Saw in Half on Orcish Bowmaster, that's also pretty good. Highly recommend that one. It's actually really good to Saw in Half your Orcish Bowmaster, even though you're not winning. So Saw in Half will work great once you're trying to finish the game, but once again, something I mentioned before, every single card inside this deck list is more or less great on its own, and will work outside if you're not winning the match. So with a high density of various cards that's going to upgrade Krark, and a high density of various creatures just in general, you have a great card drawing potential from your Tymna as well. Ultimately assembling something pretty amazing, an all-around well-built deck in general. So for example, here we have 18 creatures, that's going to be great with Tymna. We have 15 sorceries, we have Ad Nauseam, 20 instants, we have Underworld Breach, we have the Value Engine, Trouble in Pairs, Touch the Spirit Realms for removal. We have the One Ring and the Wishclaw Talisman. We don't play Necropotence in this version. We don't have access to blue, so we can't play Born Upon a Wind, but you could play Necropotence together with Final Fortune. We are not playing Bolas Citadel in this build, but you could be playing Bolas Citadel, depending on if you want to be on Bolas or if you want to be on Adnos. Totally up to you. Deadly Rollick, highly recommend that one with Krark, as you can cast it theoretically infinite. You don't need it to resolve sometimes. If you have Krark in play and you have Storm, or Birgi will do the job as well, but Storm killed an artist and you're always getting the fail on Deadly Rollick, it's just going back to your hand infinitely. Then with Storm kill an artist, casting that thing infinitely, making it never resolve, will make infinite treasures. Also make an infinite Storm kill an artist. And I have seen players being killed by Storm kill an artist basically attacking for infinite, not infinite, but something like, I've seen it punch for like 30 and 50 and such. As we are sacrificing a lot of treasures in general, Mayhem Devil will also be a potential finisher, depending on how much treasures you're eventually generating here and there. Professional Facebreaker is also great together with Dely and Tymna, by the way. This thing has Menace, so it's harder to block, but with Dely and Professional Facebreaker, also Roaming Throne, you're going to double up the amount of Professional Facebreaker value. Link in the description below of this video to this deck list. I really think that this is a commander pair deck build people should be bringing more to tournaments, as I think it's been getting a lot of potential upgrade from Dely Streetwise Lucas as well as the Roaming Throne. And we have seen a few Krark upgrades over time as well. And Mardu in general is actually starting to do kinda good. White in general have been receiving a few really good cards, Dely in particular, but Sevin's Reclamation and others are also making a really good showcase. And we should also of course mention Esper Sentinel. Regardless, I hope you got inspired in any form of way, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.